You already built an AI agent, but do you actually know how much does one blog post, one qualified lead, or even that 1 minute on a WhatsApp voice agent really cost? When you run an AI agent, every node charges you. LLM tokens, external APIs, orchestration platforms like N10 or Make.com. And the truth is, no one, literally no one is talking about these hidden costs for an AI automation. So in this video, I'll break it down in two clear parts. First, I'll show you a simple framework to calculate the cost of each and every node in your AI automation. And second, we'll use the same framework in the top 3 selling automations that I've sold to my clients: an SEO blog writer, a lead generator, as well as a WhatsApp voice agent. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to calculate your true cost per blog, per lead, and even per call. And we'll also compare, is it actually profitable to have an AI automation system in place of a real human being? Now, any AI automation that you actually use can be broken down into these 4 segments. There should be a trigger, there's going to be an API calls to collect data, there's going to be an AI agent that's going to make decisions, and then there's going to be an action that is going to perform some task, right? And I'll give you an example. For example, I have an SEO blog writer right here. This complex automation can also be broken down into these 4 segments. How? Well, let's do that. So we have a topic selector agent. Now this topic selector only has a trigger, that is a form submission. So this is a trigger. Now moving on, we have a scraping pipeline, we have an LLM. So this scraping pipeline is set of API calls that I'm doing. There's an LLM call right here. There's an LLM call right here. And a few another API calls, few LLM calls. That's it. The entire automation, which is going to cost us something, it's going to be around API calls, LLMs, triggers, as well as actions. So when we go back here, this is a major crux of our AI automation. Now let's understand the examples of trigger. We can have a manual trigger, we can have a scheduled trigger, we can have triggers like Twilio or probably some webhooks, but that's majorly it, right? About API calls, we use different APIs, but some of the most popular APIs that are out in the market is AP5. Then there is Rapid API. There's Lucia API as well. And one of the most important APIs that we use is SERP API. So SERP API is basically, it replicates a Google search. So when you want your agent to do a research, you basically use SERP API. That's a very good plus point. Next, what we have is AI agents. So these AI agents basically has a lot of LLMs, right? We are only doing calls to foundational LLMs, right? And what comes under foundational LLMs? Well, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google Gemini, right? Very simple, very easy to understand. Then actions can be writing in a Google Doc, for example, or in Google Sheets, DB calls, or if it is a blog writer, then you have to publish it on a WordPress site, right? That's it. That's majorly the crux of the entire AI automation system that we use. You can try to understand it in a very different manner. Now, to calculate the pricing is calculated based on a few logics, right? Now, since the entire system can be converted into these 4 segments, the pricing should be a sum of all these, right? So cost per execution can be calculated like cost of trigger, cost of API calls, cost of AI agents, plus cost of actions, right? Very simple formula that we can use. Perfect. Now, depending on the complexity, you'll have a lot of triggers, you'll have a lot of API calls, you'll have a lot of AI agents, and you'll have a lot of actions. But for AI, for to calculate any cost, this is the main formula that we'll be using. This thing. Perfect. Now let's try to gather some pricing of all these triggers, API calls, AI agents, and actions. So I've went over each and every pricing website, and what I've done is I've calculated the Twilio pricing, I've calculated AP5 pricing, Rapid API pricing, SERP API pricing, as well as Lucia API pricing. So I've also calculated OpenAI's O3, 4.0, and GPT-5 model APIs, Anthropic's 3.74 and 4 Opus API models. Then I've also calculated pricing for Google Gemini, 2.5 Flash, as well as 2.5 Pro. So we have done that. Now let's try to understand what really happens. The thing is, trigger is going to be a very stable costing matter. Now, there's one more additional cost that is out there for any AI automation. That is the infrastructure cost. So, this entire AI agent that we've been discussing, it must be on n10 or make.com or some of your cloud servers, right? There's going to be a fixed cost or variable cost for these platforms as well. So, for cost per executions, I think we'll also need to add orchestration cost. All right, so now let's understand this with a very simple example. I'll just try to create a very simple AI agent in Anytone right now, and we can calculate the pricing together. All right, so I'm in my Anytone workflow and I've started creating a new workflow. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a manual trigger here. And with this, I'm going to add a SERP API request. So I can just copy that SERP API request from this node. Now what I've done is I've created a very simple AI agent that represents something that we have been discussing right now on the whiteboard. We have a trigger, we have an API call, we have an AI agent, and then we have a action that is Google Sheet, right? Now, as we discussed in the pricing model, you can see that this pricing model, the SERP API is $75 per month for 5,000 searches. So how much does that actually come out? It is going to be $75 divided by 5,000, right? That comes out to be around $0.0015. Now, this is the cost that will be incurred by the API every single time it gets executed. So for this, since we're doing a single call, it's going to be around $0.015, right? Let's try to note it down somewhere. I'm just going to click a screenshot and let's discuss it over a whiteboard. Right. In this, of course, we calculated SERP API is going to be $0.0015. Then for AI agent, now this AI agent, as you can see, I've added a prompt that is exactly 1000 tokens long, right? So you can see this is a very big prompt. We have defined a lot of details, not a short prompt, a very big long prompt. And this prompt will then be used to create an output again for 1000 token long. Even if you provide this big of a context to an AI agent, it will still cost you how much? For a 4 model, it will cost you only $0.0007. So I'm just going to add it right here. Okay. Now I've added API cost in this, and for Google Sheet it is 0, right? Now to now, so this is the entire, if I calculate cost per execution, so I'm just going to write it here, core cost per execution, right? Of course, there's a background cost of $24 to run any N10 server. But if I do, for example, if I write 100 blogs per month, it's going to be divided by 100 for one execution, right? So if I just sum all these things up, it will come somewhere around, right? So this is the entire cost as for one execution I do, right? Just gonna use API for this amount of dollars, an AI agent for this. This is going to be the net cost, and this is going to be the cost per dollar per execution. Now imagine I write 100 blogs per month using the same automation. It's going to be costing around $24.22. That's it. And comparing it with a real copywriter, for one blog, I have to pay somewhere around $200 to $250. You can see the difference. There's a big difference. For 100 blogs, I'm paying $24, and for one blog, I'm paying $200 to $250. So that is the main power behind AI automations. Now let's try to put the same logic in our top 3 AI automations. All right, now let's try to put the same pricing model in the top selling automation, that is SEO blog writer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over the entire SEO blog writer. I'm going to click on execute workflow. Although there are a lot of saved items. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on execute workflow, and this will open up an edit form. In the Senate form, I'm just going to write that I want an article on AI news, right? And it's going to run the entire automation and it's going to put it everything on the Google Sheet. Perfect. Now I'm just going to click a screenshot here so that we can start calculating the pricing node by node. And I'm going to put it back to our whiteboard. All right. Okay, so now let's calculate how much eBay calls we're doing and how much triggers, how many everything. So I'm just going to keep a note here. SERP eBay calls, because now we know the per eBay call. LLM cost. Well, these are the only things that we're doing in this entire automation. So we're just going to calculate how many SERP eBay calls we're doing. So it starts with one. So we do one SERP eBay request. Then we end up doing 9 more SERP API requests, 9 items here, 9 times it executed. So 10 SERP API requests we have done here. Then we are doing 25 more API requests. So 10 plus 5 is 15. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So for one block, we are doing 15 API requests. Now let's calculate how many times we are actually running our LLMs. So we are doing a research that is one time, one LLM request. Another, we have 3 more LLM requests, that comes out to be 4. And then we have 5 more LLM requests, that is 9. And we're using OpenAI for this. So 9, 10, 11. It is executed only once, 11. Yeah. So we are doing 11 LLM cost and we're using OpenAI 4.0. Right. Now the thing is that in this entire thing, we have, let's see the context length as well. So this is the entire context that we are providing this thing. And for this, let's see how much. So you can see we are also providing very detailed input from the researches that we've done. It's very long information. So we can either go for a token calculator. We can either go for a token calculator, and this will somehow come out to be the first draft that we discuss. So first, of course, we have 1 plus, so we have, I'm just going to assume 1000 tokens right here. This is going to be around 3000 tokens. Then let's go for refined draft as well. And okay, 1000 tokens for this as well. So let's put 1K. And I think rest of them is going to be around 1K only because we're not calculating much information right here. Yeah, 1K is fine, I think, on all of them. And so again, all of them, and it's just one LLM cost that is costing 3000 tokens. So I think it's going to be around 13K tokens that we're using. Now let's calculate the entire pricing accordingly. Okay, now I'm just going to write cost per execution. That's going to be 15 SERP request plus 13K tokens plus anything cost, right? When we put this in motion, so it's going to be cost per blog, that is going to be 15 multiplied by 0.0015. So 0.0015 plus 13 multiplied by 0.0007, and then there is going to be an hidden cost. So we are assuming that we are making 100 blogs per month from this automation. We can make more, we can make less, depending on the usage. But let's say, so it's going to be around 24 by 100. Now this cost will come out to be $0.4741. Now for one blog, you are paying $0.4741. And for a month where you'll be publishing 100 blogs, it's going to cost you around $47.41. Of this consists of API request and hidden cost as well as the SERP API request. Now compare it with any other human being versus human copywriter. Well, one blog usually costs around $200. So 100 blogs will cost somewhere around $20,000. A huge price difference that you can see. $47 versus $20,000. This is again a very big difference. So you should definitely go for this SEO blog writer instead of hiring a copywriter to write and create all these blogs. Now, of course, if there was some image generation also included, which is not right now, but if we add some image generation, AI image generation, this will add up some cost. So let's say we write 5 images per blog. This can cost somewhere around, I think, $1.5 if used for image generation. So this is the pricing if we just add it. So per blog, you'll be paying, I think, $1.5. So this again may go up to $2, and for 200 blogs, if we add image generation, it will go one blog $2 and 100 blogs $200. Again, still quite cheap compared to a copywriter. So for this scenario, of course, you should definitely go for your AI automation to write all these blogs for your amazing website. Well, this is how you can calculate the costing of an AI automation by going through an entire execution, breaking down in different pieces, for example, trigger, API calls, AI agents, and actions, and then putting everything together and calculating it for a single execution and then multiplying it to how many executions you do in a month. That is the most ideal way. Now, in the next few videos, we'll be discussing the same structure, but we'll apply it to two different automations. First is going to be lead generation. So this lead generation automation uses a lot of APIs like Clutch.io, Apify, and Apollo to calculate and generate qualified leads for your own business, and it will start sending out cold emails to them as well. So this is a very complex automation that we have, and in the next video, we'll be discussing how you can calculate price for such a complex automation using the same formula that we have discussed in this video. All right, so stay tuned for the next video. Make sure that you subscribe and also like this entire video, and I'll see you in the next one.